Hey, greetings from the lovely New Hampshire-Vermont border. Down in front of me there, coming down from a pretty tall, steep riverbank, is the Anemenoides River, which will be flowing very shortly into the Connecticut River. I'm up here for a few days. It's Memorial Day weekend. It's beautiful. So far, so good. Decided to do a little hike, going out to a very special bog tomorrow, and then after that, doing a little hike. So we'll be doing some spring botany. I deleted the last two videos I shot, which I was fairly impressed with, and I'm just going to interrupt myself real quick to give you a real nice shot of a fat bumblebee going into a rhododendron. I'll talk about that in just a second. While I'm talking about that, though, what wasn't so nice was the fact that I had accidentally deleted a bunch of footage off of my camera. Back your stuff up. You'll thank yourself for it later. So we're gonna try and make up for that right now. We're gonna do a couple of quick and dirty botany videos. Right in front of me right now is a lovely species of rhododendron. This is Rhododendron Prunoides, Prunoides, the early Azalea, and you can tell it's the early Azalea and not one of the other, kind of similar species. You got the glandular calyx there, all right, and it smells distinctly of clove. Kind of interesting. We're gonna see what else is going on around here. This is, one of a few lovely rhododendrons. Flowers before it leaves out, just like Rhododendron. If you're familiar with that plant as well. Oh yeah, that was another video I'm now realizing that I lost. I had a whole bog in bloom video about different bog plants blooming. Oh well, there's always next year. Plenty of other stuff to look at this year. We won't think about that too much right now. We'll just try to focus on the future. Just know there's a bunch of good stuff I had for you guys that I'm no longer going to be able to put out, unfortunately. But here's a nice rhododendron. Rhododendron Prunoides. Down here, get some better ones. Those are the fruits from last year. The little capsules split open, do their thing. These ones will be, these are still, in bud, as you can see. So this thing will be going off for quite a while. You get some red maples, some alders on the banks of the river here, some ferns, I don't really care to key out. And they get the Zizia aria over here too, a nice member of the carrot family, Apiaceae. But we get some better specimens of that. I think we'll be able to see in a little bit. Anyway, on that somewhat depressing note, because I realize now I've lost 3 videos instead of 2. Originally I thought I just lost 1. Let's keep going. Hey, it would not be spring on the East Coast without a lovely blooming Prunus species. This is one of the cherries, Chokecherry, black cherry. I think this is a Chokecherry. Prunus, would that be Prunus virginiana? Kind of hard for me to tell, frankly. The differences between some of these are so minute. The black cherry, Prunus serratina, tends to grow more of a tree, and then Chokecherry, like this one, tends to grow more as a shrub. Amygdaloideae is a subfamily on this, so it's in the rose family, Rosaceae. Amygdaloideae is a subfamily, very, very commercially important subfamily in the rose family. You get apples in here, you get almonds, cherries, apricots, I believe, plums. Just a ton of fruits come out of this family, as well as a ton of ornamental trees. Although this thing, despite being beautiful, does get kind of weedy. I guess some people don't like these growing, too abundantly. Crataegus, the hawthorns, a massive genus on the East Coast, is also in that subfamily, Amygdaloideae. And as you can see from those galls there, it's a pretty important host plant for a number of insects. This is, this is a nice one. Coming up with, oh god, maybe a young ash. What do we get here? Is it hairy? Oh, it's a little hairy. You get a little, oh god, I'm going to butcher it. It's either Fraxinus pennsylvanica or Fraxinus americana. I think it's, I can't remember which is which. One's got the little hairy leaf, one's got the little hairy leaves, one's completely hair-free. It's a Fraxinus, it's an ash. Every single one of them is critically endangered due to the emerald ash borer. You can tell it's an ash and not something in the hickory family because it's got opposite leaves. Remember, this entire unit here is a one leaf. Not these individual things; these are termed as leaflets. But yeah, the entire genus Fraxinus, at least all the American species, are all critically endangered. You'll get. I'm going to do a whole video about endangered tree species in New England and what's going on with them at some point. But you'll get the little saplings, but then you know, they'll never get, you know, they never really get much bigger than this, unfortunately. What are you gonna do? But yeah, coming up under some sort of a cherry tree. And right here you got some type of elm. I'm not sure if this is Ulmus americana, the American elm, or if this is slippery elm, which goes by a different scientific name, obviously. Take note of those asymmetrical leaf bases there. Pretty key giveaway that you're dealing with an elm. Lovely leaf texture, kind of fuzzy on both sides. Got the serrated margins. Where's the actual tree? Actual tree's coming up back there. Could be Ulmus americana. Yet another beautiful American tree. It's just kind of dead center in the frame. It's a small one, but yet another beautiful American tree being taken apart by a invasive pathogen. Like I said, I'm going to get into it. I'll talk about Dutch elms. I want to do some more research on that. But if this is slippery elm, this is getting hit not quite as hard as the you know, the American elms are. There's a couple of different species of Ulmus you get in the region, but we'll leave it at that for now. Oh, would you look at that? Everybody's favorite early blooming member of the coffee family. You get Houstonia cerulea, one of my old favorites. Nothing really terribly worth pointing out, but still, you know, a welcome friend to see every spring. What a lovely little plant. You get the four petals, typical of the coffee family. It's poison ivy right here. I would rather not get my hands in. And I don't know if you can see that, but they get the little pretty what's the word I'm looking for? Pretty typical rubiaceous calyces there underneath. I'm not gonna get any closer. I don't feel like getting a rash this early in the weekend. How about that? That's pretty nice. Okay, so back down by the river and under the shade of this massive, healthy looking hemlock tree. See there, the needles right up there. Beautiful Tsuga canadensis. Beautiful Anemenoides river. Got a couple things interesting going on down here. Some moss growing over some sand, which is pretty neat. Down here you get two iconic spring wildflowers of the Northeast. You get Lysimachia borealis, the northern star flower, and then not in flower but in bud. It'll be in flower soon. Maianthemum canadensis, the Canada Mayflower, of course, iconic plant of the region. And let's look at the roots of this hemlock. Hemlock can do that. Hemlock can get itself into some pretty contorted positions. Wonderful, wonderful tree. Yet another one getting hit hard by the the hemlock woolly adelgid. Let me see if I can get you, just a better shot of those needles there for you. See the stomatal bands there? Nothing like a spruce, nothing like a pine, although it's in the same family. Those needles are flat, unlike a spruce, and quite friendly. More like a fir, I would say, than a spruce, but very nice tree. And as you can see, this one is doing quite well for himself. There's a couple other interesting things going on down here. I'll show you in 1 second. Hey, check it out. You got a species of Maianthemum that I've never seen before. Looks kind of like Maianthemum racemosum, but it's not. Bigger flowers than Maianthemum racemosum has, and an overall, yeah, there you go. Overall smaller structure. Beautiful. Same genus as that Canada Mayflower I was just showing you, but a different form factor. You see a lot of plants will take on this sort of form factor, not necessarily related. They all just like to do that, I guess. Polygonadum's another one that does that. There's another one right there. Coming up under a viburnum. I think that's Viburnum lanthanoides. Looks like it hasn't bloomed yet, which is kind of curious. A couple more things. I found oh yeah, there you go. I think that's Viburnum lanthanoides. Not in bloom here. Weird. It's almost done down south, and it would normally be in bloom around this time. But like I said, we're under a nice, healthy, shady grove of hemlock, so maybe that's got something to do with it. Okay, I actually brought the tripod out for this guy. I haven't been using the tripod, which is probably going to make this look pretty sloppy later. But you know, whatever. I'm trying to rebuild my content up quickly. Right in front of us, we've got a lovely member of the family, Arisaea. This is Arisaema triphyllum. This is Jack-in-the-Pulpit. Flip that guy over. Oh, look at the color on the inside of that spathe there. Remember, spathe is just the term for this bract. It's wrapped around the spadix, and then the spadix is just an aggregate of flowers. Kind kind of hard to dissect them, but the actual flowers are down in there at the base. This knobby thing up top, this is called an appendix. That's not actually where the flowers are. The flowers are down at the base of it, which you can't really see. Apparently this genus is the only dioecious, meaning individual plants as a whole are male or female, genus, because there's other species in this genus, including other species in New England that I've never really gotten to see. Apparently it's pretty rare. In the family Arisaea, it gets that epithet triphyllum from the fact that it's got these leaves in parts of 3 coming up behind it. Pretty easy to grow from seed. I actually didn't think I'd get it to come up, but I did, and it's doing pretty well so far. I think I just got one more thing I want to show you. It's just really quick, another ranunculus, and then we'll be moving on. We'll see what else we got. This little area down by the river here ended up being pretty interesting. It's quite nice down here. I of course love any habitat dominated by Tsuga canadensis. Let me go show you a little buttercup, and then we'll be on our way. And here we go, another springtime favorite of mine. This is Anemenoides quinquefolia, the windflower or wood anemone. It goes by a couple of different common names. Pay attention to this, all right? It's got a structure that I really adore in a plant, all right? So this thing comes up from its rhizome, sends out 3 leaves whirled around. Remember, this is a compound leaf. So there's actually 3 leaves here. You can see where they each branch off of the stem there, or the rhizome. I forget if these are rhizome, but this doesn't really matter. And then there's that flower. And the thing you got to remember, this plant, like many buttercups, it doesn't have true petals. As you can see, the entire perianth there is made up of these little white sepals. So looks like it has petals, but anatomically speaking, it lacks petals. The entirety of that what appears to be a corolla is in fact the perianth, if you want to get super botanical and intense about it. And also this is going to look either really cool or really sloppy. I looked up and I confirmed that this was in fact viburnum, or is in fact viburnum lanthanoides, essentially wrapping up for the season. Still got a couple fertile flowers left on this guy. We might see this weekend in bloom if we go higher up in elevation, but it gets these smaller flowers in the center. Those are the fertile flowers, and then it gets these showy big flowers around the outside that are no longer present, but those are to attract pollinators. Wonderful plant. Hobblebush is the common name. We'll probably get to see this in full bloom a little bit later this weekend. I think we're going to get close to wrapping up. There's one other thing, a couple things I want to show you. One geological thing of note, and then one more plant of note as we head back up and out of here. Okay, well evidently this trail didn't go very far. We're back on the, we're already back through out on the roadside, but like I said, this is more of just a warm-up. That's what I'm telling myself. But speaking of, coming up on the edges of woodlands, you get 2 species here that absolutely thrive in disturbance. You have Betula populifera, the gray birch with those very distinct betulaceous leaves, indicative of the family Betulaceae, doing what is referred to as, get the thing in focus there, doing what is referred to as double dentate margins. So they form teeth, but then you look, it's got teeth on teeth, if you can catch my drift. This was in one of the videos that I was talking about. This comes up in bogs too. They don't live very long. Maybe about 30 years, get about 20 feet tall. This one's already pretty big. And coming up with another species that thrives in disturbance, a member of the family Myricacea, the wax myrtle family, the very pleasant smelling Comptonia peregrina. 2 plants that you would expect to see together coming up on the edge of a parking lot, but near a woodland, and very important members of the ecology here. You could see that bark too. Could almost mistake that for a white birch or a paper birch, but the bark does not sheathe nearly as readily as it does on paper birch, if at all. Gray birch, Betula populifera. A lot of people kind of don't really pay attention to the birches. We got to fly on them, but whatever. And that is it populifera or populifolia? I think it's populifolia, having leaves like a populus. So the leaves on this kind of superficially resemble those of Populus deltoides, the eastern cottonwood. But, I will admit that I actually thought that Populus, the genus of poplars, cottonwoods, and aspens, was in the family Betulaceae, but it's not. It's actually in the willow family Salicaceae. we're gonna head on back now. I got like I said, 2 things I'll show you really quick on our way back. But yeah, you can see they get kind of big, but most of the time they stay shrubby just like that. All right, we are gonna be on our way now. So I need to get more into my maples. You know, this is a real nice one though. This is a really swell maple right here. This is Acer saccharinum, the silver maple, and you know, looks pretty typical from the front, maple leaf, you know, whatever. And you flip that guy over, you see exactly where he gets that name, silver maple. Comes up on river edges. This one's just a small one. I suppose if I was able to, you know, really get up and look at, you know, what's going on up in the overstory here, these hardwoods, I could give you a better idea. But this is a cool one, silver maple, Acer saccharinum, not to be confused with sugar maple, Acer saccharum. Trust me, that tripped me up too. And the leaves are, how you could say, they're a bit pointier, and I do believe it has the biggest leaves of our native maples. Sugar maple looks pretty similar, but those undersides are not nearly as attention grabbing. Anyway, we're gonna keep moving along here. I didn't expect to see this one here, but I can't think of any other time that I would want to work in a conversation about Acer saccharinum. Yeah, we'll keep going. Okay, coming up here under a goddamn railway trestle, and next to one of the most impressive displays of Toxicodendron radicans, that is poison ivy, that I have seen in recent years, we have a really nice member of the carrot family, Apiaceae, that I basically didn't even give a second thought to last year, but a plant that a lot of people really like, a plant that has a lot of success in cultivation in native gardens. This is Zizia aria. Golden Alexander is the common name. You can see how he gets that name. So many members of the carrot family dealing with white flowers. This one with beautiful, beautiful golden flowers. Let me see if I can just get in there. Again, I am right over poison ivy. It's touching my nutsack. Yeah, look at that. See how it catches the sun? How lovely is that? Dealing with the heavily divided compound leaves, like many members of the carrot family, easily recognizable as a member of the carrot family. Host to a whole bunch of different goddamn butterflies, from what I understand. And just a really pretty plant. You know, why don't you put that in your garden? You know, you could even put poison ivy in your garden if you wanted to. You could put the Toxicodendron in there. Look at that. Look how it's coming right out of the wall. You know, if it wasn't for the fact that this thing, you know, gave people such horrible rashes, this would be a very popular, let me step back a little bit, this would be a very popular plant in cultivation, I think. You know, climbs walls, is native, great benefit to plants, deer love it, but yeah, it does what it wants. Actually, I'm not sure if that's poison ivy coming up out of the wall there, but this most certainly is right underneath it. I'm not gonna find out though. I don't know what else it could be. Something about those margins is just a bit off. In fact, I'm fairly certain that that's not. I'm screwing myself up here. I'm tempted to go take a closer look at this, but you want to know what? That is definitely poison ivy. The little greasy leaves, the urushiol. We're gonna take a look at one more thing. I just want to show you what's going on. Oh, that's not the Golden Alexander. There's the Golden Alexander. We're gonna take a look at one more thing, I think. I'm sorry. I was trying to make this a quick one. I didn't really want to get out the tripod from any of these shots, but I'm keeping my hands steady enough, I think. What was I gonna say? We might have one or two more things to look at. Definitely one. I'm just gonna show you what's going on with the geology situation out here in northwestern New Hampshire, along the Vermont border, and we'll probably leave it at that. Well, I took a little detour and it paid off. We got some cool plants here. Most of them are wrapped up, but hey, what are you gonna do? This is Erythronium americanum. We talked about this guy in a video that I didn't fucking delete. There's the fruit right there. You can barely make out the fact that those leaves are mottled, but take my word for it, they are in fact mottled. Slightly different pattern to them than what we saw before. It's okay though. Right here in front of us, completely done, but we'll probably see this in bloom later this weekend. You had Trillium erectum, you know, wonderful plant in the family Maianthemum. These leaves, this whorl of three, these are bracts. This thing comes right up from the rhizome every year. So you can't even say this is a true stem. Just sends up the flowering structure for the most part. Sometimes you see just the bracts. Produces one fruit per plant. That's about it. These things are pretty enigmatic, actually, in the right term of the word. But there's a few of them now that I'm looking around, but they're all wrapped up. These bloom pretty darn early, earlier than Trillium undulatum, which I'm also hoping to see. But that's a treat. You have a cool member of the family Ranunculaceae. Remember the buttercup family here. You have a species of Actea. Could be Actea pachypodia, could be Actea rubra. Kind of hard to tell until those fruits mature. Actea pachypodia tends to have whiter pink berries with a thick little peduncle going out to the berry, and then Actea rubra tends to have red berries and a thin peduncle going out to the berries. But be a little while before we're able to tell. Super poisonous plant, but really important fruit for birds. Birds go crazy for these little white flowers on the thing. Not too conspicuous. It tends to be actually a little bit more conspicuous when it's in flower rather than when it's in fruit. And then I found, new to me, over here, pardon me for 1 second, I'm just gonna, yeah, there we go, a really cool member of the family Saxifragiles, another family I don't really talk about too much on here. This is, Tiarella cordifolia. I almost forgot the name. I just had to check one of my books. So get in there real nice for you. This is a new one for me. Oh yeah, 5 petals, 5 stamens. The stamens are beautiful. I'm sorry, 5 petals, 5 sepals. 10 stamens coming out of this thing. Beautiful form factor to it overall. No leaves on the flowering stalk. I had to actually really hunt to find the leaves. These are the leaves right here. You can see where it gets the epithet cordifolia from. Of course, if I'm forgetting the epithet, I'm going to feel like a real idiot in a second. But anyway, foam flowers is the common name. New to me. I've never seen this one before. They're all up and down this little trail. I just decided to walk up on a whim. You should always do that. You know, if you ever get a hunch, just say, hey, maybe there's some cool shit up there. Go for it, because more often than not, you'll probably find some cool shit. So this is a new favorite for me in the Saxifragiles. Saxifragiles would be the order. Saxifragiaceae is the family. What a beautiful little flower. Okay, so right here we got a plant that the foragers go absolutely crazy for. We ended up putting an extension on our botanical foray. This is ramps, actually coming up next to a little Jack-in-the-Pulpit right there, a little Arisaema triphyllum. This is ramps. I think I know it's Allium is the genus. It's in the genus of onions. Alliaceae is the family, obviously. There's a little emerging inflorescence there. And this is one of the most, probably the second most over-foraged plant in the Northeast after ginseng, Panax quinquefolius. But Azalea, it's like Cococinum or something. Whatever. I'll put the name there. Sure enough, I ripped the leaf. I just, take just a tiniest little tear off the leaf. Thing reeks like garlic, and apparently these taste quite amazing. I think they're a little past season now, and rest assured, I'm not going to be harvesting any of these, but they're going to flower pretty soon. I grow some onions, so I'm pretty familiar with what the emerging onion inflorescence looks like. But how about that? That's a goddamn treat if there ever was one right there. What a cool plant. And of course, like everything we've been in today, coming up with just a ton of poison ivy. So I'm going to carefully back my way out of here, tell absolutely nobody where I found these, and we'll leave it at that. And another plant we've technically seen before, but in a different life stage. Here's Sanguinaria canadensis. Here's some bloodroot right here. You can see the little, ooh, geez, I'm caught something. You can see the little poppy pod right there underneath. How nice is that? I'd say that's pretty nice. So here's another one I was bummed I wasn't going to be able to show you. Unfortunately, it's not in bloom right now. It has just finished up, as you can see from those ripening fruits up there. This is one of the few native species in the family Berberidaceae, the barberry family. This is Populifolia Thalactroides. This is blue cohosh. Very important plant to native people of the region. Very interesting one taxonomically. Gets that epithet Thalactroides because it does have leaves that somewhat, I guess, resemble a thalactrum in the genus Ranunculaceae. This is in the order Ranunculales, so same order as buttercups and all those guys. Really fascinating plant. Wish I could show it to you in bloom. It smells absolutely delightful. It'll have these really, really interesting looking bright blue berries sticking out of the top of it, later on in the summer, where it tends to get a little bit more noticed. And like I said, I'm really happy I kept this video going because I ended up seeing quite a few things that I would not otherwise have gotten to show you, albeit most of them, they just aren't in bloom, but that's okay. Hey, really quick, another one that's not in bloom. This is Hepatica acutiloba. Would look a lot cooler if it was. This is also, just another Ranunculaceae. Those are those maturing Those are those maturing fruits right there. Hepatica nobilis, a little bit more common, has blunt lobes. This one, acutiloba, has the pointier ones. At least I believe this is acutiloba, but definitely a hepatica. Okay, so what we're looking at here is a species of saxifrage. This is in the family Saxifragaceae. This is Betula diphyllum. As you can see, it's got these lovely snowflake-shaped petals, 5 of them, on this diminutive little stalk. This thing is tiny, but it definitely caught my eye. And what you'll see as we zoom out is it's got these 2, dissected but opposite leaves, almost clasping the flowering stem. I'll zoom in here for you right now. Almost like a maple-shaped leaf. So this is pretty close to the foam flower that we see earlier in the video. Same family, slightly different form factor. Really cool flower. Cool to see it. Okay, one last thing before we go here, just to give you a real idea of what's going on here, why this forest makeup is a bit different than the stuff I'm usually on. That can, be explained right in front of us here, looking at this rock exposure. All right, we're in a pretty steep gorge here. You get the hemlocks trailing above. Very few white pines, actually, mostly hemlocks in terms of conifer. And as you can see in front of us there, that's some sedimentary rock. Normally what you're working with in the area, I think specifically this is shale. I can confirm or deny that later. Specifically, what this is doing is this is changing the pH of the soil here. You're getting a bit more nutritious soil for the plants. It's a bit more basic, a lot less acidic, and you're just getting a whole different cast of characters. Yeah, just take note of the fact that it's sort of slanted sideways too. This was laid down flat and then uplifted to the side at one point. Layers, sedimentary rock. Dead organisms make this stuff up. I'm not sure specifically what shale's made up of, but I believe that's what we're dealing with here, shale, slate. Where we're going to be on today is going to definitely be shale and greywacky, which is a fun thing to say. But as you go west in New England, you get less of that leached, acidic granite and metamorphic rock, and you start getting a lot more of this shale, and then even limestone as you get really far west to the edge of Vermont. And that's why New Hampshire and Maine tend to look a little bit different than Vermont and New York in terms of forest makeup. Western Massachusetts looks a little bit different compared to Eastern Massachusetts, and this is just a concurrent theme that you have to learn to live with in botany. You got to learn a little bit of geology to go with it. I think that's going to just about do it today. This was excellent for a warm-up. Sorry a lot of that stuff's not in bloom, but you want to know what? If you don't really appreciate vegetative botany, frankly, I don't really know what you're doing. You gotta brush up on your vegetative botany too, and all these plants are still plenty interesting, even when not in flower. That being said, hopefully we will see some pretty cool stuff tomorrow. Flowers should see at least 2 species of orchid. I'm hoping, and even if not, a really interesting conifer swamp where we won't be seeing many hardwoods. We'll be seeing lots of black spruce, lots of Thuya occidentalis, and couple different species of spruce probably. Tamaracks will be there, but I don't know why I'm telling you this right now when I can just show you tomorrow. Show, don't tell. The great rule of thumb for storytelling. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that nice calcareous rock exposure there, and I'll be checking in with you again real soon. Have a good one. I didn't think you got what I meant when I was explaining to you, that this is calcareous rock. Really look at this. Really pay attention to how this is layered. This is so different than what you hear about typical of New Hampshire with the granite and the schist and the gneiss. This is just like chalky, like it comes apart almost in my hand. That's going to change your soil makeup right there. It's going to make it definitely, you're definitely going to have some different plants grow on this stuff. This is actually considered to be, a much more fertile rock.